All right, everybody, welcome back to the Kleen-Rite Radio podcast. As always, I'm sitting here with my good buddy, Marc Tyndale. I am Fix It with Phil. We're fresh off the ICA. Our big self-serve seminar went fantastic. And we have noticed that through the comments left for the podcast and the comments and questions asked at the ICA seminar, the biggest thing people want to talk about is clubs, subscriptions, and pricing. And that's what today's going to be all about. We're going to dive in, and we're really going to just open this up a little bit to try to give everybody a better understanding. I know that Marc is extremely passionate about clubs. I am as well, and I think today's going to be a great conversation.
I agree, Phil. The other thing that came out of that with the clubs is, acquiring customer data, which self-serves have not done in the past. So before we dig in, let's thank Simon Eyes, our sponsor.
Simon Eyes.
Thank you, Simon Eyes.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So the seminar was great, standing room only. After the seminar, probably you and I each had a line of people commenting on our comments, which was great feedback. And I would say 90% of it, and the hands that were raised in the room, 90% of those were about pricing and clubs, and they kind of go together. And we're going to mosh those together today.
Yeah. How
pricing affects a club if you want to start a club. A lot of the questions were, should I start a club? Not everybody should actually have a club. I think clubs are important, but it's probably not for everyone.
Agreed.
Especially if you don't have the passion or the confidence to do the club, or you're not going to promote it down the road.
Yeah.
You do not want an unsuccessful club, because that is possible. Right.
It is possible, and you have to face that fact when you get there. If you start a club and, you can't grow it to what it needs to be, you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, all right, that is not working for this
why
site.
is my club not working? So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
So
my first thing would be, why would somebody want to start a club? And for me, it's subscriptions create a predictable revenue for your car wash, and a convenience for your customer, which, makes washing their car and coming to your site much, much easier, right?
Yeah, loyalty and, like I said, the customer data. And in self-serve business, so different than the in-bay, so different from the tunnel, right? A lot of us have probably 70% of the days out of the year, we have capacity. Mm-hmm. We have one or two open bays. Even if it's a steady day, you always have an open bay. And the concept of the self-serve club is to fill those bays and get that reoccurring revenue and get that customer data.
Well, and the other thing that does for you, when you fill those bays, your wash looks busy. It promotes that you're running a good, solid business, giving a great end product. And that just drives people to come in even more that maybe were, a standard passerby.
Yeah. Activity breeds activity.
Correct.
Right? And activity also reduces vandalism. It reduces a lot of different things. And you get that customer loyalty, which is what everyone is looking for.
I just want to jump back to the reoccurring revenue portion of why a subscription is a great model. If you can have a subscription on your site, that reoccurring revenue helps you predict cash flow, which also puts you into a mindset of revamps, performing work at the site. You can kind of plan that out based on that steady cash flow that's going to come in every month, right? So it helps with your financial standpoint of, hey, I got these bills coming up. I know I need to get my pits pumped. I'm going to have the money to cover that. I don't have to put it off because I have this reoccurring revenue. It can also help you when you go to the bank to get a bank note.
Yeah,
right?
and reoccurring revenue, if you ever want to sell, is worth a little bit more than pay-as-you-go revenue. Most people know that.
So the other thing that the reoccurring revenue does is gives you a little bit more confidence in yourself and your business, right? The things that you can take away from the subscriptions, right, is if you're looking at like IBA subscriptions, say you have 4 packages, And everybody that is subscribing is always choosing the top 3 packages. And you're barely selling any of the bottom packages. Well, it might be time to revamp that model, right? You could go to 3 packages, change your pricing around a little bit, and gain some more traction.
Yeah, I always, even before clubs came along, if 70% of your users are buying your top package, you're probably doing a good job, but you're probably your price a little low. I think a good number is 50-60% using your top package, which means raising your prices in the in-bay or self-serve to get to that point. That lower price, we see it all over the country. They're too low. People are selling in-bays for $5-6. It's the same price as what a 20%er is charging for a self-serve bay.
Yeah.
So I think what we do is circle back a little bit and talk about, because we do have a little bit of data on how would you price a club, and let's start with the national average, unofficial national average,
The unofficial national average
that we heard from a pretty good company that has great data. Is they're saying that the average ticket in a self-serve bay across America, now you have your lows and you have your outliers, but they're saying it's $6 to $7 a ticket price for a self-serve bay. So if your turn on is $1, you're probably not. You probably don't have an average ticket of $6. But if your turn on is $5, you might have an average ticket of $10. So those all blend together, and then you get that $6. So Phil, you know this. What is the multiplier? So first, you have to know, you have to count your money and look at your dashboards of whatever credit system you're using, because you need a credit system to do clubs anyway. What's the multiplier that you'd recommend for if you're starting to think about clubs? How do I price my club?
So based on self-serve or IBA, an IBA, whatever your wash price is, we're going to be looking at 2 to 2.5 times per month. So if it's a $10 wash, your monthly charge is going to be $20 to $25, right? 2 to 2.5. Same thing in your self-serve bay, right? Mark mentioned that we need to know what your average ticket is. You need to look at what the average person is spending in your bay, and you're going to be at that same multiplier, right? But the other thing that comes in, into that is, do you know how much it costs you to wash a car, right? So we're going to fall right back onto pricing. Is your pricing right? Because subscriptions only work if your pricing is right.
That's correct.
If you're making the right amount of money on a wash, then you can effectively do a subscription. But if you have yourself priced so low that you're only making 20%, 30% on a wash, the subscription model is probably not going to work for you unless you are doing that high of a volume. Right. So, you mentioned earlier turn on time if your turn on time's $1 or your turn on time's $5. I really want to dive into that a little bit, right? Because it does affect the bottom line. A lot of people have said to us at the shows and the seminars, your turn on time's $5 and you're given 5 minutes, that's $1 a minute. My turn on time's $1 for a minute. So we're at the same price structure.
You're not the same.
Which is completely false, not true whatsoever, right? We can skin that any way that we want to, but in all reality, it is, when you have a $5 turn on time, you are guaranteeing yourself $5 every time somebody pulls in the bay.
That's right.
When you have $1 turn on time, you are guaranteeing yourself $1. Right? So those are very different price structures. I know that the math for $1 per minute, but at the end of the day, the average ticket price is very, very different.
I think the self-serve industry in a whole is too hung up on the time per coin, right? I've always focused more on the price I want to charge, and then the dollar or the time per coin, or actually now for me it's $1 or the the time per dollar.
Yeah.
Even though we're using coin pulses, I think in dollars, not coins.
I would agree, and I think that is, one of the biggest movements that's happening right now is people are going coinless, which is a subscription app that is out there, but people are going coinless in the sense of not taking quarters in the bay anymore because they're trying to focus more on the model of a dollar.
Right. And so when you go to that higher, let's say your car wash is a dollar to start, and $1 a minute, and my car wash is $5 to start and $5 per minute. That is, somebody has to put another $1 in to add more time. But if you're looking at your average revenue and it's only $3, you're leaving that $2 on the table
Every car that comes
through, and you may, that goes back to having the functions. The way to get, if you have 8, 10, 12 functions instead of 5 or 6, you can justify that $5 start or $6 start easily because you can't wash your car with a lot of functions in less than 10, 15 minutes, 12 minutes. Phil knows exactly how long it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with that, with the amount of functions that you have on your dial, justifying the cost more per wash, because, again, what does it cost you to wash a car, right? Not all functions are created equally. So, if you have a very, premium chemical solution that you're, say you're using ceramic or you're using graphene out into the bay, that is a more expensive chemical. And we need to make sure that we're charging for that in the end, right? So when you have that $5 start time, you're guaranteeing yourself enough money to cover the products that you're allowing your customers or providing your customers to use.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing, there's been a few people the same people that have attended our seminar. I'm going to shout them out. The nice couple from Oklahoma.
Hey
guys. And, they've asked me the same question each time. And I think as a team, they're split on it and they probably need to come together. But I think they're not alone. There's a bigger group out there that do this kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. They'll charge, let's say $3 to start, $3 minimum for credit and $1 for cash.
Yeah.
And that just blows my mind because to me, that is so different than any other type of retail operation in the entire world.
Yeah.
Nobody charges 3 times more for credit. If anything, they should be equal. You should not penalize people for using
their credit card.
Yeah. You should build your expense. And by the way, the expense to use a credit card is not 3 times. Mm-hmm. It's about 3 to 4%. So if you're treating the customer right, technically, right, it should be like $1 to start
and $1 for a credit card.
Well, no, I mean like $1 to start. If you're trying to recoup your credit card expense, it should be $1 to start and then 3% more for credit. Right? Now, nobody's going to do that.
If we want to split hairs about it, yeah, absolutely. If you need to cover that little bit, but when you're $3 for credit,
I'm saying that tongue in cheek, right? Like nobody's going to do that.
I'm just being very, very clear about it. You're being tongue in cheek. I'm being very clear because I don't want people to take it the wrong way. That they should actually do the math and charge 3% more.
No, you should build your cost into your total price.
Yeah.
And your price for credit and cash should be the same.
They should absolutely be the same because you are giving your customers an option to pay you less for the services you provide.
Right. And we're literally telling the dollar starters not to charge $1.06 or $1.08.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking about the same thing, but I think the pricing is key, especially if we're talking about clubs now, right?
Yep.
I think the clubs also give you an opportunity to raise your price.
And when you raise your price in the bay or you raise your price per wash and then you you stack clubs on top of that, everybody, all of your current customers are going to see the value you are trying to offer them, and they're immediately going to want to buy in.
What's the biggest fear, the number one fear question we get from anybody that's considering a club? And you know what it is. It's the abuse.
The free riders, the abusers, the guy that's going to wash every day. Look, you're going to have that. There are those people in every crowd. You are never going to stop that. So if you are diminishing the capacity of your business based on 5 to 10 people, if you have 500 subscribers and you have 15 people that are abusers, let them be abusers.
Yeah, and you have 15 people that probably don't use it at all, or use it below your average of what you expected. Right. The one thing I've noticed from, I don't call them abusers, I call them just great customers.
Yep.
I look at it a little differently.
I do too.
They love coming to the car wash. They are your number one promoter. They're almost like a free salesperson.
And they're a free set of eyes. Right?
Yeah.
Because they're constantly using the wash. They know what it's supposed to look like. They know what your best performance end product is. And if you aren't delivering that, they're going to call you and let you know.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's a free set of eyes coming through the car wash on a very regular basis that can be, basically a free worker for you, but they're paying you.
Yeah. You said it perfectly. So I know in my washes, we get calls from our regular club users, and they'll say, "Hey, I love this place. I don't call too often, but I didn't get some wax in this bay, or I saw somebody left something in the bay." But
yeah,
I mean, that's an advantage.
Or I ended up with a couple spots on the windshield or whatever. I mean, they're helping you keep a consistent wash across the board all the time. And you know what? When you go out and you take care of that issue, they notice that. And like you said, that's free word of mouth. That is free advertisement. They're going to tell their friends.
What a great deal.
Hey, I've been subscribed to them, and I called him the other day, and such happened, and the next time I went through, it was taken care of.
Right.
They care about me.
Right. So, they're not abusers. They're just overusers.
Yeah.
And the club dynamic is pretty simple. You have usually as many people that overuse it equal to the amount of people that underuse it, and then you have everybody in the middle, and you're really steering your club business towards everybody in the middle.
Yeah.
So if you have 100 self-serve club members, like you said, I think you already said this, 10 will be overusers, 10 will never use it, 80 will use it that average of 2 to 3 times a month.
Yep.
Maybe 4.
Yep, and that'll influx up and down a little bit, but the average across the board weighs out that most people will use it 2 to 3 times a month.
And it changes with the weather. So like right now, we're all selling a lot of clubs. Mm-hmm. Club people actually, the thing I like about them, especially in the in-bays, is they don't use it as much when it's lined up during pollen. Because they're a club member, they'll come when there's more capacity. There's less, less lines.
Which keeps the bays wet and keeps people coming in.
They kind of plan. Club members do kind of plan a little bit more. So I mean, there's not a huge disadvantage to doing it. I would say the biggest disadvantage is if you don't get enough clubs, or if you don't buy into it and then you don't put the signs out, you don't advertise for it, you don't promote it, you don't price it right, know your pricing, or if you think that a club is going to salvage a pretty poor site, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to buy into a subscription if I don't believe in the place, if the place doesn't manifest a look of confidence, right?
Yeah, if you never have soap, people are not going to join
I
your
want
club.
to pay you monthly for not using soap, please.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the different subscription styles.
Yes.
Right? There's a couple styles out there. The big marker is the unlimited, right? And let's break that down quickly. It's not a really big conversation. Unlimited is really once a day. It's, every day of the month. But it's not unlimited as in these people can run a circle and go through 5-6 times a day, right?
Right.
They're allowed to use that subscription once per day, and that is that, right?
Yeah.
That's what unlimited truly is.
And I've always been a big fan of not using the word unlimited. I use VIP or Gold Club or whatever you want to call it. Using the word unlimited in the car wash industry is very loose, right? So the tunnels truly are unlimited, where people will try to go through 4 or 5 times a day. The self-serve clubs are not set up that way.
Right.
They're set up to go that one time a day for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you set. And that to me is not unlimited. Unlimited is I can use it whenever I want.
Yeah.
So people are advertising unlimited, but it is limited.
Yeah.
And you want to limit it.
Yeah, you do want to limit it. But I heard you say, platinum, gold, whatever. That brings us into the next form of clubs, and that's like tiered subscriptions, right? You can have your customers buy in at a silver level, and they'll get, let's say it's 6 washes a month. They could buy in at a gold level, and they could get 12 washes a month. Or they could buy in at that diamond platinum level, and it could truly be that limited, unlimited subscription.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about So I have a car wash, right? I want to start exploring companies.
I thought you had 7 car washes.
I do.
Okay.
I do. And I am right now exploring companies to do this. And
to do self-serve.
To do self-serve and potentially vac clubs. It's pretty much the last thing that we haven't done. We're very successful in our in-bay clubs, and we invested heavily into that. In self-serve, there's from my research, I called pretty much all the companies I could think of that I could do this with. A couple of them, it's almost cost prohibitive because I have 100 devices. So to accept club in 100 devices, if I have to buy hardware for those devices, that's a pretty big investment, right? You're talking $2,200 a bay or a vac to get clubs. My team is not real excited about that. So then you go to one that is more app-based or already works with the card readers that you already have. That's a little bit more palatable to do. So in my opinion, I think that the market is still open for new ways of doing it. I think that some more app-based stuff out there to allow the guy that already has all of his card readers. Now, there are systems like that, right? That if you have CryptoPay, Everwash can just turn it on, right? That's a big advantage for CryptoPay users. Huge advantage. If you have NIAX in your bays, I know they're working with a Beacon Mobile to try to get that done. If you have Monex, I'm not 100% sure with Monex how you do clubs. I think you can do an add-on box, like a relay box from 3 different companies that offer app-based clubs.
To work.
But even for me, if I have 100 devices and that device is $600, that's a big investment.
It is.
Actually, at 60,000, not terrible. I mean, I would do that for clubs. That's not limiting for an operation of my size. Actually, I look at that as fairly inexpensive. But $500,000, it doesn't sound good.
No, the ROI on that investment maybe there.
Yeah,
might be a little longer out than you would want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, when we did our auto clubs, we invested over $600,000, right? Because we had to put all new pay stations in. We were doing it anyway. We bought the software. But for me to use that company, now I would have to change all my card readers out, and I'm just probably not going to do that.
Yeah. So are you thinking about keeping those two separate? You're going to keep your in bays the way that they are, and then you're going to do a separate software or app-based model in your bays. That way you can do subscriptions on both.
Yeah, we're gonna have to run on two different platforms.
Yeah.
Which is they're two different customers. My self-serve customers probably don't use the automatics that much, and my automatic customers probably never use the self-serve base unless they want to clean their lawnmower or their grill or something like that.
Which does happen.
Oh yeah, and I'm all for it. You know, we actually have a shelter that comes and cleans out all their cat
Litter boxes.
Yeah, they line them up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Spray them down, get them done.
But they clean up after themselves. So I think that there's some great companies out there that can offer this. I do think that this market will expand. There will be other players as it catches a little bit more fire.
Yeah.
To make it even easier for the people that already have a certain hardware to enter this, to not have such barriers to entry.
Yeah.
And I think Coinless and Everwash have made it easy because, let's face it, 70% of the market probably already has CryptoPay.
And that's, yeah. For me, I mean, at all of our sites, we use Everwash, and it has been a very seamless thing to make happen. You know, their ability to provide signage, advertisement, and, you know, help with setting up the clubs and pricing and whatnot has been, you know, fantastic. So
good. Yeah. So I know there's a lot of people that I think the biggest issue or decision making is the amount of members, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's not am I going to do clubs? It's not an if, it's just a when. Mm-hmm. But my biggest concern, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to capture our goal. You know, we'll have a small, a medium, and a hey, we knocked it out of the park goal. Even our smallest goal will work. But we do have kind of that good, better, best idea in our heads when we do this. But we'll promote it heavily, and we probably will get a good amount of members.
But from what you're saying, what I hear your thought process is right now is, you know what your average ticket is. You know what it costs to wash a car for that average ticket, right? And then you're looking at that in three different levels of, these are the amount of members I'm going to need to make this a successful venture, right? To pay for the subscription platform, and then to actually, you know, recoup money on top of that, right? So I'm hearing that thought process, and I just want to like relay that out loud for everybody out there to understand like what you're walking through right now, the decisions you're making, and the way that you're looking at it, so that they can take that same thought process and apply it to their wash.
Yeah, I mean, I know it works, and I think it was May 1st. It was pouring down rain, and you know, we auto billed X amount of members and actually had a really good day.
Yeah,
didn't wash a car, and that's why you do clubs.
Yep.
You know, and even if somebody comes in that day and uses self-serve in the rain, it happens. You know, great. You know, let them wash their car.
Them.
They're in your club. So
the other thing that comes from clubs and that we've somewhat touched on is customer data.
Yes,
right?
huge.
What does customer data do for us? Well, it does a lot, right? It gives us their information and the availability to try to upsell them. It gives us the availability to try to buy them back if they do cancel the club. And it just gives us statistics on, you know, how the wash is performing, what people are choosing to buy in on and what they're not choosing to buy in on. It kind of cuts down on some of the money you might have to put out into marketing because you get that data.
Yep. It allows you to know them.
Yes.
And it allows you to market to them. And that is probably the number one thing that, because, you know, historically, the self-serve car wash was cash-based, order-based, and people really did not know their customers. They didn't know who they were. This allows you to pick up a segment of your customers. And I know with the MBA, in the MBA world, we're capturing all that data. It's interesting though. It's a good problem if you get too many members because of all the reoccurring revenue you get from that. But the more members you have, the more data you have, right? And I think that people are concerned that too many people will buy clubs. To me, that's a weird concern. They're afraid that it's going to take away from their everyday or their one-time purchaser. And what I've seen just in the MBAs, it's a segment of our business. It's not
all of it.
It's not all of it. We're so different than the tunnel business. So the tunnel business, their model is to have 60, 70% club members. In the MBA and self-serve world, our goals should be 20 to 25, maybe 30% club members. And it's a gain. It's a bonus.
Yeah.
If you can get to 25% of your pay-as-you-go total group of customers, you're doing awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that 100%. I mean, you need a certain percentage of your customers to buy into that subscription model for it to work.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Right? And realistically, when you look at that and think about that statement, a long-term loyal subscribed customer over the long term will spend on average the same amount of money that your pay-as-you-go customer will as well. Correct.
You're just getting it a little bit differently.
Yes.
And you might actually make more. Plus, you build that loyalty. They have buy-in. They belong somewhere, and they're going to use that because they can use it because they've joined it.
Yep.
There's no decision making. Where am I going to wash my car? Well, I already have a club here, so I'm going there.
Yeah. So if you're in, you're in a town, let's say you're in a metropolitan area or a town area where there's 2 to 3 washes, right? And both of you are competing against each other. You both have one in-bay or 2 in-bays and a couple self-serve bays. Neither of you have subscriptions. You offer subscriptions first, right?
Absolutely.
It's going to be a firestorm.
Yeah.
People are going to see the value in that. They're going to see that you believe in your wash that much, right? And you're going to not only get the buy-in from the customers that consistently use your wash, but you're also opening up the opportunity to gain your competitors' business as well a little bit.
I think that's probably the number one thing that people who haven't done it yet, they're like, I don't want to discount my services. You're not discounting your services. You're gaining customers.
You're gaining customers.
And you're retaining customers.
Yes.
So, I mean, it does work.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked about free riders and abusers. We talked about, startup and buy-in. A little bit for the startup and buy-in though, right? When you're buying into a subscription model, the upfront price is a factor. The other thing that you need to think about when you're doing that upfront price is advertising, right?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't really talk about advertising too much, and I just think that we should absolutely touch on that. We touched on buying the software, buying into the app, but we didn't talk about advertising.
And promotions, right?
Yeah.
So when I first started the MBA Club, I think it was 2012, 13, something like that. We were doing RFID in an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a nightmare, right? Putting tags on people's cars. But it got our feet in the door.
Yeah.
And it was awesome because we gained all these members, and it was painful because we were messing with tags and we're unattended. So then we went to more of an app-based model. But to promote that, I mean, we advertised the heck out of it. Mm-hmm. And we did like Saturday morning, pop a 10 up, give an iPad out and give everybody free hot dogs. We'd sign up 100 people that day.
That's big.
It's
right. That's huge.
Yeah, you have to do promotions if you just put a sign up in the bay, and your bay is dirty, and you do not talk to people about it, or you say, well, I have it, but I don't really want you to use it. That's kind of what you're saying. But if you own it and you're like, man, you should probably try this. You're here all the time. You should do it. That approach, you're gonna get more members.
Yeah.
Use some whatever advertise you use, whether it's print or media or your website. Put it on there, and you probably will do pretty well.
We were doing just little handout flyers. People coming through. Hey, you should definitely think about signing up for the club. It's a great value, and you kind of just give them a little rap about it, and then hand them the flyer. They pull into the bay, and I would say 70% of the people that you handed that to were sitting in the bay, looking it over as they were getting their car washed.
They're doing the math.
Right? They're figuring it out, and that's an easy way to get a customer to buy in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The other, some of the other things you can do with all that data collection when you have members sign up, you can push them family plans. Hey, have you thought about signing everybody in the family up? Right?
Yeah. How do you do family plans at your?
We do
with the self-serve.
We do not do family plans with self-serve. I only do family plans with the IBAs.
Yeah, I do it with the IBAs.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it is an easy way to turn one member into 3 or 4 members pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We don't do it in a self-serve just because it's, from a member-to-member basis, that time. So haven't really seen the value in that yet. It is something that I should probably explore and really start to sit down and do the numbers on and see if that works out. I will report back on that.
Yeah, Phil, report back to
here
us
in a
on
bit.
that.
Yeah, let me do some homework on it and really see if that is something that would be a viable option.
Yeah, I know our members really appreciate it in the in-bay, and because we do have a bunch of express tunnels around, we made it very attractive. But they are, our users can use the in-bay 12 times a month, and technically, they could just use their membership for their family for those 12. They don't want to.
No, because they want to wash their car 12 times.
They want to have the ability to wash it 12 times. Most of them wash it, 3 to 4. But when we offered the family plan, and I give 50% off for every member in the family, and we have some people that have 3 kids on it.
Yep.
And it's a lot more. It's more inexpensive than what the tunnels offer because their model's different.
Yes. And
because of the system that we have, we can build we call it parent-child. That's just a name in the software. It could be a husband, wife. It could be somebody, whatever. But since it bills to the primary credit card, it keeps the people from going out to just having any friend or neighbor do it because it's going on their credit card.
Yeah.
But they're okay with that with their child or their spouse or their, whatever. So it's really bumped us up, and pulled some members back from the tunnel plans.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'd love to see what we talk about next at family plans and self-serve and how we would do that.
How do you structure that?
How do you structure it? I don't know. We'll find out and report back.
We don't have all the answers, but we are willing to do the homework.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So long run subscriptions. To me, long run subscriptions is a loyal long-term customer who
somebody you're not going to lose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
what you're trying to say.
I lost my train of thought there.
We're getting a little long in the tooth here.
We are.
Yeah, we might get the hook soon.
I'm trying to close it up with the long run. So to me, long run, I'm going to read it right off of what I have written down here. Long run, what does a subscription do to you? Is it creates a loyal long-term customer that buys in to your car wash and holds you accountable at the same time for consistency across the board. Right?
Yeah.
They're loyal to you, and you need to be loyal to them by giving them a consistent end product every time.
Yeah.
Right? It raises the bar for you, your customers, and what you can do within your business.
Right. Yeah. And I'll just end on, if you are thinking about doing this, think about your pricing first.
Yes.
Because if I do it, I'm gonna go to probably $6, and I have a full meter dial, so I know that that person washing their car, if they're using most of the functions, whether I give them 10 or 15 minutes, they're probably going to spend more money over the year than they did when they were a pay-as-you-go customer, because I'm getting that subscription every month, and as soon as you hit your limit, you have to pay for anything you go over that limit. So it's kind of a win-win.
Yes, you get that restart time.
Yeah, and it gives me the flexibility to, if I ever want to do vac incentives, which I'm not sure. I only have one site that were affected. The vacuums are kind of affected by free vacs at a tunnel. But we still make money on the vacs there, but it has been affected. So maybe, we can do some tie-in with that. So it's going to give us some flexibility. I think we've hit this really hard.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get a lot of comments.
I hope that we do.
I know I looked at the data yesterday. Most people are watching this or listening to it on Apple. They're not watching it. They're just listening to it. So we appreciate all the support. We're getting a lot of listeners. We're getting a lot of feedback, a lot of questions. And if you have any questions about this topic or any other topic, just go to Kleen-Rite-Radio.com, make a comment. We actually read the comments, and that's what prompted this podcast today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Hey, we appreciate it. Everybody out there, thanks for listening to Kleen-Rite Radio. And just want to give another thank you to Simon Eyes. We appreciate you.
And we'll see you in Missouri.
Yeah, we'll see you in Missouri.